Do 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 do. Pottery lessons with Tim. Meow.
Okay, so today we're going to go over centering in greater detail. The last video was the beginning pottery class video, but as they progress, it needs to go up in detail. So same thing, I've got the balls made. I'll start with a damp center here. Difference of what this video from the last is I'm going to go over where my hands are better, how to get the clay to move, and really why we center at all. So, all the same thing. I'm not going to go over all the stuff that we already did, but here's where this stuff starts to get different. So pushing down, I want to get my hand so that I'm pushing at this part here, down and towards the middle. I don't want to push just down, I don't want to just push sideways. I want that skirt to form so that it makes a good ramp. I'm going to smooth it out with my finger, and I want to check it. Is there any gap? If there is a gap or something, I'm going to do that a little bit more until it's completely sealed. Coning up. Coning up, I want to make sure that this part of my hand is pushing against the wheel head enough that clay doesn't squirt out the side. If clay squirts out the side, it means I'm up off the bat a little bit, and it's allowing clay, as I displace it, to go someplace else. This will often make a ramp, and that ramp will start you with a spiral when you go up. I'm also going to make sure that my hands do not come off the wheel head. If they come off the wheel head as I move up, I'm going to put a spiral in the clay. We don't want a spiral, it kind of defeats what we're doing. I won't be able to show that in a cutaway when we do one of the next parts here, but it's an issue. It happens to be an issue. So center of the clay, the middle of my wrist and my elbow need to be in a straight line. That's when I push on it, I'm pushing with the end of my arm. As soon as I start to engage my hand, I'm wrestling it like your arm wrestling. And that uses a lot more muscles than just pushing with the end of your arm. If you're pushing directly towards the center, then you're not glancing off the side of it. You're pushing right into the middle of the clay. It's efficient. It's more efficient use of the pressure that you're putting on. My left hand is going to be at a 90 degree to my right. If your wrists are together, you're pushing away from you. If you're pushing away from you, your net force is in one direction. And that one direction of net force is more likely to cause your ball to slide off, and it's less efficient in terms of moving the clay. So I'm going to move my left hand out to a 90 degree so that my net force is kind of that way, towards 2 o'clock. It also decreases it from, I can't do the mathy parts of it, but rather than pushing straight across, it's now kind of balanced against each other more so than if you were pushing in one direction. When I push down and squeeze together, I want to make sure my hands are overlapped. And when I push, I want the clay to squirt out of the top. Our goal is not to center it yet. It is only to get it coned up. I'm going to scrape down so I'm against the wheel head. I'm going to anchor my right hand against the wheel head. You'll actually see my hand cleaning the wheel. This is why I say try not to use groggy clay at the beginning, because this is going to eventually wear away your hand, especially if all you're doing is centering. Then I'm going to push down and forward and slowly let my left hand push the clay into my right. And then let go slowly. Now I did that with the wheel going rather slow. I often will have the wheel going just about as fast as the wheel can go, so that this all looks much smoother when I do it. You noticed I didn't add water to that either. It doesn't have to be slippery enough to slide when we're actually centering. It can be a little stickier, and that stickiness actually will increase your ability to center more homogeneously. And we'll do an example of that with the next balls that we do. So making sure my wrist is bent, center of the clay, elbows in a straight line. I'm going to push this way, so towards like 2 and 10 almost. Let the clay squirt out of the top of my hand. Let go of that pressure slowly. And that's the next step, is how quickly you release the pressure to the clay. If you're pushing on it and you let go fast, you're going to end up leaving it, we'll do it with one hand, you're going to end up leaving it bent. If you let go slowly, that bend comes away incrementally, and you get left with a lot less of it. The faster the wheel's going, the quicker you can let go of the clay. So that would be our goal. That is centered. One of the ways you can check centered, especially in the beginning, because I know it's hard, you can't eyeball it or feel it as well. I'm going to put my finger, actually let's do something sharp and pointy. I'm going to run my tool until it touches. How deep that tool goes in, you can see it here, a little deeper here, and a little less deep there. That is, if we had to look at just its space in terms of the relationship of the wheel, it's a 64th of an inch off, which is perfectly fine. But that's just how it is on the outside. That doesn't account for what goes on the inside. We could take a tool and scrub all the clay that's not in the middle off. We could trim it almost in the middle. That doesn't mean it's centered. Centered is more than just being in the middle. But you can go do this all the way through to make sure you're centered. This one I'm going to cut off. We're going to do the next demo. The next one, I'm going to put a ball of white clay. Scrape something off here. And I'm going to put a dent in it on one side. That dent, I'm going to fill with another clay. I'm just going to stick it in that dent. So when I pull up and do all the stuff to this piece of clay, this will start to move. The more it moves, the more homogeneous your clay is going to be. It's a fun experiment to do at home. So I've got it stuck, and we can see just getting it stuck, it spun around one whole time. From top to bottom, that outside of the clay has twisted a whole time. Our goal in centering is to move the clay throughout itself. There's two different ways of doing this. The squishing together, pushing it up, and then pushing it down and let it go in, it does work. It's harder though to get it to move all the way through than if you push and you kind of slide off the side. So I'm going to do both, and we'll compare the centeredness. So I'm going to push down, squeeze up, let go slowly. I'm going to wet this one too. I'll come down and forward. Cone up. Cone down and forward. So right now that feels in the middle. Like it's physically in the center of the clay. But I can still feel lumpiness in the middle. Partly because I stuck two different pieces of clay together. And we're going to let go slowly. So cut it in half. We get an idea of how that clay moves. You can see what I did 3 or 4 passes up and down, and it hasn't quite gotten to the middle yet. And you can see these lines are going just straight, and they're just on the outside still, but they're not rotating. We're going to do it again. Same kind of deal. Take our ball of clay, make a dent here, take another piece of clay. And this is why, there are different ways of centering. And, if our only goal was to get the clay into the middle, all the different kinds of centering would work. But it's more than just getting it in the middle. It's about homogenizing it and making this something that you can work with in a way that the clay will respond the best. If there's inconsistencies, it's not going to respond as well as if it's nice and even horizontally. Okay, so we got it stuck. You see, I stuck it a little bit longer. It's at 1.5 spins. But the difference now is that I really won't use that much water from now on. I'm going to cone up. And I'm going to cone down. And as I cone down, I'm going to slide off the side a little bit. And as I slide off the side, it's going to squish the clay back up. Again, not going to grab water. I'm going to let that friction build up and twist my clay. And that twisting is going to allow this clay to work itself into the wall more and through. I didn't catch how many times that was, but we're gonna do it a couple more just for shits and giggles. So I'm squeezing, sliding that down, sliding off. You can actually see it started to turn white, meaning that clay has now worked itself through. I'm gonna go back down to the centered position, and we're gonna cut it same way. This one, you can see it started to spin, and that spin has worked its way all the way through, closer to the middle, but also it's mixing this stuff in this direction. If we were to cut it from the top, you can see how close it is getting when it's near the bottom even to being mixed up all the way through. We'll do that to this one. Okay, this is where the big difference is the density of spin. So you can see how much more it's spun, and it actually fades out here. Whereas we've only got 1, 2, 3, 4 there. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10, 11, 12, 13. There's 13 that I can count versus 5 on that side. And it's that it's the horizontal homogenization that makes it easier to throw. And like if we were to wedge the clay and do this, we don't get that kind of homogenization. Is that even a word? It's close enough to a word. And that's the difference. So do this test that out. How close you're getting to being in the middle and having your piece mixed up. Okay.
Thanks for watching. If you guys haven't already hit the like button, slam that like button. If you're watching for the first time or you haven't subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button. And thank you very much. We'll see you in the next video.